My supervisor met my boyfriend and now she wants an HR meeting. Posting here because my friends are all caught up with their own lives right now, and I just really need to talk this through with someone. I listen to this group every week, I read the threads, and I always find comfort in the advice and opinions people share on here. It feels like a safe space, and right now, I need that. So, for some context, I'm F24, and I'm a high school science teacher. I love my job, and I've been teaching for about 2 years now. It's definitely challenging, but also super rewarding when you get those moments where everything clicks for the students. My boyfriend, who's M25, has a bit of an unconventional career compared to mine. He's an OnlyFans model. This detail is important for later, and it's something we've managed to keep pretty separate from my professional life, up until today. Anyway, today after school, he came by to help me carry in some supplies I needed for an experiment I'll be doing with my students next week. We're doing this whole hands-on lab, and I needed a lot of stuff, so he was nice enough to lend a hand. When he pulled up, the principal of my school, who I'll call Jan, was outside for dismissal. She happened to be out there as part of her usual routine of overseeing things when the buses arrive, so she got to meet him right there. Jan is a nice enough woman, though we don't interact too much since I'm mostly in my classroom with my students. Still, it seemed like a good chance for them to meet briefly. As my boyfriend and I were setting up the lab equipment in my classroom, Jan walked in. It was a little unexpected, but she's pretty casual about popping in from time to time. She glanced at my boyfriend, and then asked him if they had ever met before because, according to her, he looked familiar. He just smiled and said he didn't think so. We both thought it was probably just one of those moments where you recognize someone but can't place where from. After that, Jan didn't say much else about it, and the conversation moved on. Once we were finished setting everything up for the lab, I decided to show my boyfriend around the school. He'd never been there before, and I figured it might be fun for him to see where I work and spend most of my time. I gave him a quick tour of the building, showing him my classroom, the science wing, the gym, all the usual stuff. The tour ended at the main office, and that's when things got strange. Jan was still there, and she greeted us again with a friendly smile. But as we stood there talking for a moment, I saw her expression change. It was subtle at first, but then her face shifted into this look of, well, I guess the best word for it is fear. Or maybe shock. It was like something had just clicked in her mind, and she suddenly realized something. Without saying much, she quickly excused herself and walked away. My boyfriend and I were left standing there, a little confused and unsure of what just happened. I was about to brush it off when my boyfriend turned to me with this slightly amused look on his face. He half-jokingly suggested that maybe Jan recognized him from his OnlyFans page. At first, I laughed it off. I mean, surely that couldn't be the case, right? Jan is a middle-aged woman who, from what I've seen, struggles with even basic technology. I've had to help her with email issues more than once, so the idea that she would somehow stumble upon his page seemed far-fetched to me. I told him as much, but he just smiled and let me stay in my little bubble of denial for the time being. Fast forward a couple of hours, and we're at home cooking dinner together. I'm feeling pretty relaxed at this point, not really thinking much about the weirdness at school. That's when I get a text message from Jan, and suddenly, the whole situation comes rushing back to me. The message said something along the lines of,
"Good evening, Op. I'd like to have a meeting with you and HR person from HR tomorrow morning. Please be in my office at 7 a.m.
As soon as I read it, my stomach dropped. All the casual vibes I'd been feeling were gone, and panic set in. Now I'm almost 100% certain that my boyfriend was right, and Jan does know him from his OnlyFans page. I tried to keep it together, but my mind was racing with a million thoughts about how this could go. Meanwhile, my boyfriend, still with that amused glint in his eye, is trying to reassure me that it's probably not about that. But I can see it on his face. He's at least a little bit proud of himself for being recognized. He's not taking it as seriously as I am, and while I appreciate him trying to calm me down, I'm freaking out inside. At this point, I've kicked him out of the house and sent him on a snack run because I desperately need something to calm my nerves. Stress eating is definitely a coping mechanism for me, and I'm leaning into it hard right now. The problem is, my usual support system, my friends are all busy tonight, and they don't know my boyfriend is an OV model. Neither does my family. In fact, hardly anyone in my personal life knows about it. It's not something we advertise, and I've been able to keep his career separate from mine up until now. So, here I am, turning to all of you for advice because I honestly don't know what else to do. I feel like I'm spiraling, and I'm scared about what tomorrow's meeting might be about. What if it really is about his OnlyFans? What if Jan found out and now it's going to affect my job? I just want to crawl out of my skin right now. I'm not even sure how to approach this situation or what to say in the meeting if it does come up. Do I just act like I don't know anything? Do I admit to it? Help. Update 1. Hello, I'm not sure if I'm supposed to make a separate post for an update or not. Sorry, this is my first time actually posting on Reddit. I have an account for stalking, but my name is linked to it. Please let me know if I'm not supposed to. I asked for advice and y'all gave so much. Thank you, I felt very supported. Also, a lot of y'all clocked it. I do work for a religious private school. Anyway, I arrived for my meeting at 7 o'clock. I know a lot of you thought it was early, but school starts at 7:45, so it was a normal time for me. I did record the meeting, and even though I am in a one-party consent state, I asked to be safe. The meeting started with Jan, my principal, saying that it had recently come to their attention that my BF had been publicly participating in lewd acts. I asked what she meant, since as far as I knew my BF had never had charges filed against him for something like that. That's when the HR lady, Pam, said that somebody, they couldn't name names, just said it was a staff member, found his account. Like many of you said, I asked what that was since I had never heard of it. They explained, although they did not look as uncomfortable as I had hoped. Then they asked if I had ever participated in, or intended to participate in one of his videos. I said no. Jan said that I couldn't bring any unvetted guests into the building, so I pulled up the email thread I had asking for permission and reminded her that he had his ID scanned in order to get a temp badge. Pam said that it was due to the nature of his online activity, that he would no longer be allowed in the school. I said okay and asked if when I brought my dad to help with things in the future, would I need to disclose his online activity as well. Pam said that wasn't necessary, but that they couldn't have any teacher or staff member affiliated with a sex worker. I asked what that meant, and she said that I could not bring him onto school grounds, to school functions, or anything relating to the school. Additionally, since the school represented the church, the staff could only have relationships with people who upheld a dignified image. Apparently my BF doesn't do that. She also said that if they receive one report from a parent, student, or staff member of my affiliation with him after this meeting, that would be grounds for immediate termination. I asked if that also applied to the staff member who reported it in the first place, since they went onto a corn site. Jan said that was irrelevant, that the meeting was about me, not the other staff member. The meeting ended shortly after. They asked me to sign an acknowledgement of the meeting. I told them I wanted to review it first and brought it home with me. My BF is furious and at the same time keeps apologizing, saying that it's his fault, but it's not. The standards for teachers are crazy. We're going to have a little Indeed/LinkedIn date, so hopefully I can get out of there ASAP. Lesson learned though, never take a job at a religious school.